Well, well, well. Look who it is. Hi, guys. Oh my gosh, it feels so weird to be back. I feel emotional. Hi, babies. I missed you. This is my new room. Like, I moved my PC into my room. Let's switch it over to our royalty-free music real quick. I love that song, but I know I'll get claimed. Here we go. And that way it's not blasting your ears, hopefully. Woohoo! Yeah, new setup, new room. I am still decorating, so it's kind of blank still. But I don't think it's that bad. Especially for only living here for like a couple of weeks. Honestly. Like, shit, I mean, I keep forgetting where my camera is because I'm so used to it kind of being like over here. Now my brain's like, everything's moved around. My PC's over here now instead of being over here. It's like, ah. I'm excited to read. We've got a new book. New place. Things have been crazy. Ah! Squawk. 10 months. Man, you guys, thank you so much. Thank you. I was having a really hard day today. So I just really appreciate the support, like, right away. You guys rock. I, like, genuinely missed it so much. Ah, my little emo self, bros. I can't help it. Today's stream is brought by Bloom. So, I'm really excited about that. New energy drink. It's really good. It's really tasty. It's supposed to be 0 sugar and have natural energy. And it has like, let's see here. Apple cider vinegar, prebiotic fiber, all that good stuff that you need real bad. So that's what I'm going to be having today. And then I have my handy dandy Benjamin. And I've got my little rig set up right here. So we're going to be good to go. Woo! It's so fun to be back. I love like this new setup so much, you guys. I liked being in the living room, but I felt kind of bad because I felt like I was taking over our home space. Like my boyfriend not being able to like go into the living room or anything, you know? And I kind of like the way that other streamers have it set up in their bedroom. It's cozy. So I was like, let's switch it up. I think my first setup was in my bedroom. So we're bringing it back, which is fun. Sweet, sweet. Oh, I love that little Hello Kitty. That's so cute. Oh, it's toking. I didn't even notice that. Speaking of that, let's do a toke. I have a nifty tool. Oh, real quick. You gotta peep the Vader bowl piece. It's because it's obviously you all know why. Your girl's obsessed with Vader. All right, now watch this. It's cool, right? Oh, Lord. So that's how that works. I like it. As if it couldn't get more extra. Also, it's forcing me to do an ad break. So, there's going to be an ad in 30 seconds. You're going to do a toke too. I might even do a little dab. Just because it's a special occasion. What can I say? But yeah, I got that little tool as a thing in my samples, and I was like, this is awesome. Especially because living in an apartment, like, I want to smoke my flower inside, but we just moved in here, so it's like we want to be careful, you know? So it's hard. So this little thing just like fits right in the bowl piece, and it's perfect. And I put this little keychain on it so that I won't lose it. And it's perfect. So I can literally take like any vape, almost of any kind, like literally. Makes it easy. Makes it quite easy. Oh man. Let's see. So we moved. Let me know also if if the music's too loud and I'm like screaming at you guys. Just let me know. Music's very loud for me. We moved, and that was a huge relief. We're still battling with our old landlords, which is fucked up, but at least we're out of there, and we can afford to pay rent. And it's not a terrible situation for us in a lot of different ways. So we really got out of that negative situation, and we're now like in a way more chill environment. Like, I love this new place already. It feels so cozy, in like a normal neighborhood. And our last place was just too fancy, schmancy, stupid, pooped. That was fucking so on brand. On brand, honestly. So yeah, feels good to be back. I have a beautiful bedroom, my beautiful closet. I can't wait. I have this beautiful canopy that I usually put over my bed. I usually put my guitars up on this wall. So soon you will see this all come to life over the next couple of months. But it's fun. It's cute. Like, the cats love to sleep on my bed. So hopefully we'll also get to see just more of the cats up close. Our book today is called Dark Life, and it has kind of an ocean theme. So I wore blue and a little like sea star necklace that I got when I was in Bend to match the occasion. So I'm feeling the vibes for sure. And we get to have like for those of you who have been here since like the very, very beginning, my first stream emblem was exactly, oh god, pointing, this neon. It's exactly what it looked like. My very first stream branding thing. So it's really fun to be able to have that neon in the background now and feel like that little like homage to my very first branding, and also just like my vibes, I guess. It's really cute because it was in front of my desk, it looked cute, but then like you guys couldn't see it. And so that's another thing. I was like, I'm going to switch things up a little so that you guys can see more of the art and stuff that I put next to my desk. Spread it out a little bit. Yeah. So I'm yapping. I'm just so excited to be here. Everyone is welcome to gather in the Bean Theater if they want to be a part of the live discussion for the book. There's absolutely no pressure to do that. But if you want to do that and be a part of our live discussion and listening that way, Um, that is where we will be hopping into to meet with Squonky and start reading our book. So, we thought it'd be fun for people to have like an option to join into the live discussion of all of it and to live react. When we were on hiatus, we were doing some book club together, and we just had so much fun doing it that way that we wanted to bring that to what we were doing. So, yeah, I'm excited. Squonk is in there, so let's get in there. I hope that my like music won't be too loud or distracting. Yo, what's up, homie?
What's up?
Yay! Can you say hi again? I want to make sure that you're reading on the. Hello.
I was just giving it a second because there's a little bit of a delay for me.
Okay, cool. Sorry that there's a delay though.
Oh no, it's fine. It's just between stream and.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah,
that's gonna happen.
Stream will always be just like a teeny bit behind, just a teeny tiny bit. But
Precisely.
Let's make sure I turn your volume up too so that we can hear you. Clear. Clear. We did start reading this book together. Huh?
Oh, I said right stat now.
Right stat now.
Yeah.
We did start reading this book together, and we decided to start it over so that everyone was starting in the same place. But this book is so good, and I'm so excited to read it together like this. It's gonna be really fun.
Indeed.
This was a great choice. Sorry.
No, all good. It's definitely one of those books that, like, kind of comes out of left field. It's not something that you necessarily expect it to be, but it's such a fun ride.
Truly, yeah. Yeah, I'm excited. It's got a lot of beautiful imagery.
Yeah, I can't wait to share it with the community.
Oh, I'm taking that little Dabrowski right now.
I've literally got mine heating up.
Gotta start off with the kickoff, right?
Precisely.
Plus, also, you guys get to now see my whole Squishmallow collection behind me.
Ooh.
You can't see all of it, but it's there. There's a lot of it. How are the sound levels, guys? Let us know if anything is off. Should we... Let's see.
I'm gonna turn the stream up just a smidge.
Yeah, totally. Okay. I'm gonna switch up the vibes. Oh,
Yeah.
no, wrong thing. Since it takes place in the ocean, I want to put some music that really like suits this vibe, you know?
Yeah.
Has some effects and stuff like that. Yeah, this is a good one.
Get some good oceany vibes going.
Hopefully it's loud enough. Cool. Yay, we're setting the vibes now. Are you ready? Do you need any more time? Sorry.
If my mic sounds a little better through this.
I think it's a little bit quiet, but I think it might just be for me because of the fact that I have to like do all my stuff through my soundboard. Because when I see you read through on the audio, it doesn't seem like you're quiet. Thank you, Ginger. I appreciate you.
I was just swapping to a pair of wired earbuds because sometimes
Oh, yeah.
they can be a little clearer.
Yeah, that helps a lot for sure. Cool. Well, I guess I'll get it started.
Yeah. I've
So,
got the book pulled up too.
I'm excited.
Hmm?
So, for Declan, Vivienne, and Connor, who inspire me to go for the funny and the cool, and Bob, the love of my life. I peered into the deep sea canyon, hoping to spot a toppled skyscraper, maybe even the Statue of Liberty. But there was no sign of the old East Coast, just a sheer drop into darkness. A ball of light shot past me, a vampire squid, trailing neon blue. The glowing cloud swirled around my helmet. Careful not to break it up, I drifted onto my knees, mesmerized. But my trance was cut short by a series of green sparks bursting out of the gorge. I fell back, every muscle in my body tense. Only one fish glittered like an emerald and traveled in a pack, the green lantern shark. 12 inches long and deadly as piranhas, they could rip apart something 20 times their size. Forget what they could do to a human. I should have seen them coming, even this deep. I should have known the squid had squirted its radiant goo to divert a predator, and now my helmet's crown lights served as an even brighter beacon. With a jab to my wrist screen, I snapped them off, but it was too late. I couldn't unring that dinner bell. I pried a flare gun from my belt and fired into the midst of the electric green frenzy. 2 heartbeats later, light exploded over the canyon, shocking the sharks into stillness, eyes and teeth glittering. Quickly, I scooped the anchor of my manta board out of the muck and hauled myself onto it. Lying on my stomach with my legs dangling, I twisted the hand grips and took off, making serious wake. If my lungs hadn't been filled with liquigen, I would have whooped aloud. Not that I was in the clear. As soon as the flare died, the sharks would be on me like suckerfish on a whale. I thought about burying myself in the thick ooze of the seafloor, bedding down with the boulder-sized clams had worked before. I chanced to look over my shoulder. Sure enough, the darkness twinkled with stars. Vicious little stars shooting my way. Tilting the manta into a nosedive, I flicked on the head beams, only to have the light reflect off metal. A sub. I crashed into it and toppled, boots over my helmet. The manta's hand grips tore from my fingers as I slammed onto my back. Sliding down the sloped hole, I grappled for a hold without luck until my feet hit the bumper and I stopped short. My guts took longer to settle. Without a rider, the manta would shut off automatically. I'd have to find it later. Right now, I needed to take cover. But why was this little rig sitting on the seafloor without a light on to announce its presence? Was it a wreck? If so, it hadn't sunk that long ago. The polished metal hull was barnacle-free. I scuttled along the bumper until I found the circular door to the airlock. The panel cover dangled from one hinge with pry marks scoring its edge. I hesitated, wondering about those marks, when suddenly the hull gleamed with emerald light. I slammed the entry button. Like a dilating eye, the hatch opened and seawater filled the small chamber. Plunging into the airlock, I whirled to see sharks streaking towards me from all sides. I hit the interior button whole-handed. As the hatch clinched shut, the sharks plowed into it like mini torpedoes. From inside, they sounded like death pounding at the door. I slumped against the chamber wall and grinned. Nothing put a buzz in my blood like escaping predators. How many rules had I just broken? Visiting Cold Sleep Canyon alone? Forbidden. On nothing but a manta board? Absolutely forbidden. Exploring a derelict sub, off the sonar screen. But now I had to take cover until the sharks left. It was the smart thing to do. The safe thing. Not that my parents would ever hear about the sub or the sharks. With a gang of outlaws roaming the territory, they had enough to worry about. When the last drop of seawater disappeared through the grated floor, I tipped back my helmet and inhaled. The air was rank, but did its job. The oxygen-infused liquid in my lungs evaporated. Switching on my flashlight, I opened the next hatch and stepped right into someone else's nightmare. Blood dripped from every surface in the gear room. Walls, benches, lockers. Wet and glistening. It puddled around the prospecting tools that littered the floor. I slowed my breath, as if that would lessen the metallic tang that now filled my nose. A stink that conjured up the blood-slicked deck of a whaling ship. Some fisherman butchered something big in here, that's all, I told myself. A sunfish or a marlin. Nothing to panic about. Except, I edged farther into the room. No matter how hard it thrashed, a dying fish couldn't have emptied the weapons rack, let alone ripped it off the wall. Circling the overturned rack, I panned my light across the open lockers, all ransacked, and tugged at my suit's neck ring. Usually my helmet didn't bother me when it hung off the back of my dive skin, but now its weight choked me. The sharks outside weren't doing my nerves any favors, either, knocking along the sub's hull, looking for a way in. As soon as the sharks stopped tapping, I'd head up to the sunlight zone and hunt for dinner like I should have been doing all along. But the tapping didn't stop. If anything, it grew louder. Worse. I realized it wasn't the sharks tapping at all, but footsteps. I snapped off my flashlight and let the darkness envelop me. The sub might be eerie and blood-splattered, but that was no ghost trampling down the hall. Silently, I peeled off my gloves and drew my spear gun back from the holster on my back. Ghosts weren't real, but outlaws were. For months, the Sea Blight gang had terrorized the settlement, robbing every supply ship that floated our way. I had often wondered what would happen if I came across them. Now it looked like I was getting my chance. I hoisted the spear gun over my shoulder, only to have the cold metal slip through my fingers. Grabbing at air, I snagged the strap just before the gun clattered to the floor. In the corridor, the footsteps broke into a trot. I crouched behind a crate and took aim at the door. As the footsteps neared, I curled my finger around the trigger. I tried to steady my breathing, but couldn't steady my arm. It was one thing to shoot a hungry tiger shark, but skewering a person, even a low-down outlaw, I didn't know if I had the stomach for it. Suddenly, a flashlight beam shot into the room and whipped across my face, blinding me. I lifted my spear gun, and a scream rang out, not mine, and the light went out. I scrambled to my feet and sprinted into the corridor, following the echoing footsteps into the sub's bridge. That scream. It hadn't been an outlaw. It had been a girl. "I won't hurt you," I called out. No reply. "Look!" I aimed the flashlight at my spear gun while holstering it. "Don't be afraid." Like the gear room, the bridge was a mess. No pools of blood, thankfully, but the equipment consoles had been stripped and wires sprouted from the ceiling. One bunch swayed like seaweed, telling me someone had just passed. As I parted the wires, a light snapped on and a high-pitched voice demanded, "Who are you?" Surprised, I turned my flashlight toward the voice, but my reply evaporated as a girl strode toward me, her long, dark braids swishing. "You scared me," she said. In one fist, she gripped a flashlight, and in the other, a green knife. Her hold on both was shaky, yet defiance blazed in her pale blue eyes. "Sorry," I managed to say, despite my shock. She looked about my age, 15. But more astounding, she was from above, No doubt about it. Between her pink cheeks and peeling nose, her face was a study in UV exposure. She stumbled to a halt. Are you a ghost? Inside, I went very still. Just once I would have liked to meet a topsider who didn't make me feel like a freak. I never said anything about their sunburns. She squared her shoulders as if bracing for the worst. You are, aren't you? I almost nodded to see what she'd do, but instead I said, I'm alive and human, just like you. You're glowing, she accused. For light's sake, so my skin shimmered. That didn't make me a ghost. I wasn't skeletal or hollow-eyed. I'd built up lean muscle from working on the homestead, and my eyes were a perfectly normal shade of kelp green. I'm not glowing, I told her. It's called a shine. I tried to not sound defensive. It comes from eating bioluminescent fish. The girl inched closer. People don't eat fish that glow in the dark. Down here we do. Really? That's so... Bounding forward, she jabbed me in the ribs with her flashlight. I gasped in pain while she gasped even louder. Hot tar! You are real! A reply, even a sarcastic one, was beyond me. Not only had she knocked the breath from my lungs, I couldn't believe she'd thought her flashlight would go right through me. Heck, I was lucky she hadn't tested my humanness with her knife. I thought, she stammered, I mean, in the dark I don't glow. No, she agreed too quickly, holstering her green knife. Of course you don't. I'm very sorry. Are you all right? She moved in close again, pushing her long bangs out of her eyes. I'll live, though by tomorrow I'd have a bruise the size of a mud-eating sea cucumber. Did you see all the blood when you came in? She asked. Fish blood, probably. At least I hoped so. Like most topsiders, she stood too close. I could feel her sucking up the oxygen around me, and it was making me lightheaded. I edged back. What are you doing here? I came aboard hoping this was my brother's sub. Now I'm hoping it's not. She waved her flashlight across the ransacked consoles. He's down here somewhere, panning for manganese nodules. Black pearls, that's what we call them. Well, prospectors do, like your brother. Wait, are you saying you're alone? You're alone. She said it like she'd proven something. Oh, you're alone. She said it like she'd proven something. I live down here. I was the first person ever born subsea. Did topsiders mind being called topsiders? I didn't know, but I sure hated it when they called the pioneers dark life. A what? I'm a what? From above, I amended. Above? She smiled as if the word amused her. As in, above the water? Yeah. How do you know? How do I know? That I'm from above. Was she serious? Even if she hadn't commented on my shine, everything about her hollered topsider. Worse, she had all the telltale signs of an amateur diver, but aloud I just said, freckles. At her puzzled look, I added, kids down here don't have them. Her whole face looked as if it had been sprinkled with wet sand. I aimed my flashlight higher. Then there's your hair. My hair? She didn't sound so amused anymore. It's streaky. Her hair, which was brown like mine, had stripes of copper running through it. Why did the sun lighten people's hair but darken their skin? I didn't get that. Streaky. She flipped her long braid over her shoulder, out of my sight. I thrust out my hand. I'm Ty. She hesitated before taking it, and, of course, she didn't tug off her dive glove. Among settlers, it would have been an insult. But then, topsiders rarely showed skin except from the neck up, sometimes not even that. I'm Gemma. Gemma. I couldn't help smiling. Like Gemma the ocean. She looked startled. What's that from? It's what we say down here when we come across something pretty. I realized it sounded like I was saying that she was pretty, which I wasn't, even though she was. My mouth went dry. You know, like a shell. I cleared my throat. Or a sea slug. Sea slugs are pretty? She asked skeptically. They can be. That's how my brother began his last letter. She ran her fingers over the pocket where she stowed her knife. To Gemma the ocean. Well, if he lives down here, he'd know the expression. Look, I lost my mini-sub, she said abruptly and tipped up her chin, daring me to laugh at her. I wasn't even tempted. Where'd you get a mini-sub? At the trade station. I rented it from an old card player. She plucked at her baggy dive skin. Now I'll have to pay him for it. The guy had to be a professional gambler. The trade station was crawling with them. Did you rent that dive skin from him too? Because it doesn't fit right. Just looking at the way the metallic fabric hung limply around her slim waist was enough to make me break a sweat. The sensors were woven between the layers of material. If the dive skin wasn't hugging her body, its computer wasn't getting an accurate read on her vitals. With an impatient flick of her hand, she dismissed my worry. I left my sub by the airlock, but now it's, what? He really came down here alone? I just couldn't wrap my brain around it. Even scientists who were experts on the deep sea brought crews and lots of equipment. Let me guess. You think girls should wear long dresses and practice obedience in order to stop the rising? No, I replied carefully, though I guessed from her tone that she didn't hold with the new Puritan belief that global warming was God's way of punishing us for our sins. It's just that it's really dangerous subsea. I could get eaten by a giant squid, I know. She rolled her eyes. I was in the water for 2 seconds. If a squid wants to eat you, it doesn't have to wait for you to get wet. That got her attention. A giant squid can come 80 feet long and weigh a ton. It'll drag your vehicle so deep the water pressure will crack it into pieces. Then that squid will pluck you out like it's shucking a clam. Under her freckles, she paled. You're trying to scare me. Yeah, I admitted, but that doesn't mean I'm lying. She shouldn't be deep diving without knowing the risks, though I had to give her credit for sheer guts. Why would anyone want to live down here? She asked with a shudder. Does your family own any land? Of course not. There isn't enough to go around. My family owns 200 acres. She wrinkled her nose. At the bottom of the sea. Yeah, but it's ours. If she saw my family's homestead, saw how green and beautiful it was, maybe then she'd understand. When I'm 18, I'm going to stake my own claim, 100 acres between 2 buttes. You sound like an ad for the Subsea Homestead Act. Smiling, she quoted the commercial. Stake your claim, work the land for 5 years and it's yours. Wait, what's that sound? A shrill clicking vibrated through the hole. Our eyes darted to the ceiling, and then to the inky water outside the viewing dome. Growing louder and faster, the clicking turned into a piercing trill. Then something crashed into the curved window. With a shriek, Gemma threw her arms over her head, but the plexiglass didn't shatter. Instead, a dark object bumped down the window, trailing a thick chain. Tow hook. I shut off my flashlight and pushed past her to peer up through the dome. Kill your light. High above us, a sub hovered with its exterior lights glowing, softly, outlining its shape. A shape I'd heard described many times, always in fearful tones. The heavy hook hit the rig's bumper with a thud that reverberated through the soles of my boots and up my spine. I backed away. Let's get out of here. A path of light shot down through the darkness. Come on, I urged. But Gemma's gaze stayed on the chain outside, now taut and writhing in the spotlight's beam. That's the specter up there, I tried to explain it. It belongs to... A pair of boots thunked onto the viewing dome and kicked off again. Then the rest of the man shimmied into view. When he let go of the chain and dropped onto the bumper, a second man slid down after him. I'm gonna sneeze. Oh my god. Oh, 2 in a row. Let's go. Sorry. Woo!
Oh, good. Bless you.
Thank you. Okay. Now Gemma skittered back into the shadows. Who are they? I crouched as thin beams of light crisscrossed the bridge, coming from the men's helmets. Outlaws, I whispered, tugging her down. Really? She looked outside with new interest as the outlaws attached the tow hook to the rig. With every move they made, their crown lights bounced wildly inside the bridge. I touched my thigh where I had 7 inches of serrated steel holstered. Still, as skilled as I was with a knife and a spear gun, I knew I couldn't fend off a sub of full-grown men. We had to get out of this rig unnoticed. I nudged Gemma and pointed at the corridor. After a last look at the outlaws, she followed me into the dark hall. At the gear room, I flicked on my flashlight and stepped through the hatchway. She didn't budge from the threshold. Does this mean it's not fish blood? I don't know, I admitted. Until now, there had been no proof that the Sea Blight gang had ever killed anyone. Only a heap of ugly stories and a bullet in a skipper's leg. Enough to convince me that I didn't want to tangle with an outlaw. Around us, the hull moaned and creaked. Hurry! I circled the room to avoid the blood. Once they haul this wreck out of the mud, it'll fly. I'm not going outside, she hovered in the corridor. I'll hide somewhere in here. Maybe I shouldn't have told her about the giant squids. Listen, I said. If the Sea Blight gang killed someone in here, with a shudder, the sub lurched forward, and I grabbed onto the airlock's hatch frame to keep from falling over. You can bet they're dumping this rig right into the cold Gold Sleep Canyon. You want to go down with it? Blanching, she dashed into the airlock. Tell me again why people live down here, she said. I hit the button that closed the hatch behind her. When you suck it in, do it all the way. She flushed anemone pink. Excuse me? The liquigen. Flipping her helmet over her head, I snapped its seal shut. Some beginners leave pockets of air in their lungs, then, when they get into the black, their chests are smashed flat by the water pressure. I clapped my hands together for effect. The icy glare she shot me could have restored the glaciers. But my words must have sunk in because she bit down on the liquigen tube in the base of her helmet and made an effort to fill her lungs. As she gagged and snorted, she fell against the chamber wall, setting off a blinking red light above the exterior hatch. I secured my own helmet, only to realize with a jolt that Gemma couldn't have set off the light. That light only pulsed when someone outside pushed the entry button. I snapped off my flashlight, and not a second too soon. The hatch dialed open and a stream of water shot into the airlock, glistening like a blood spurt in the pulsing red light. The stream widened into a waterfall, and churning water climbed over our bodies. I unspooled a short length of ripcord from my belt, clipped the end to Gemma's belt, and steered her to the wall near the open hatch. As soon as the ocean filled the chamber, a beam of light cut through the bubbles. A helmet light. I waited, nerves firing, as a dark figure stepped through the hatch. The instant he crossed the chamber, I darted outside, dragging Gemma with me. Given our speed, he must have felt the water ripple behind him. He wheeled around, looking younger than I'd expected. Or maybe he just seemed it with his mouth hanging open and black eyes wide at seeing the two of us. In a burst of movement, he slashed forward, baring teeth that had been filed into points and bleached till they were as transparent as dragons' fish fangs. Thrusting Gemma behind me, I slammed the entry button. As the hatch cinched shut, the outlaw threw out a hand, grabbing for my neck. The metal plates closed around his forearm. His fingers raked my chest, not trying to snag me anymore, but convulsing under the pressure. Stumbling back, I banged into Gemma and knocked her off the bumper into the gloom. The ripcord between us snapped taut and then yanked me into the darkness after her. For an instant, I sprawled into the ooze, my legs entwined with hers. Then I barrel rolled away from the rig, taking Gemma with me. A second later, the sub lifted off the seafloor, kicking up silt as it went, sailing into the darkness. I got to my feet, only to tumble back into the mud when Gemma grabbed onto my dive belt. Did she think I was going to leave her? The ripcord still linked us. As we got up together, she gripped my hand like a moray eel chomping prey. I suppose the freezing darkness and intense pressure could be nerve-wracking if you weren't used to it, which was why the other settlers almost never left the continental shelf. They didn't share my fascination with Cold Sleep Canyon, even though it was longer and deeper than the Grand Canyon, and 100 times creepier. Cold Sleep had been named the Hudson Canyon until a chunk of the East Coast slid into its gaping maw. Now everyone associated the chasm with death and destruction. I just associated it with predators. I checked around us for the Green Lantern sharks. Seeing none, I turned my crown lights on dim and located my manta board. Gemma matched me step for step with her lights blazing and knife out. The glare would attract every beast in the area, and her knife wouldn't stop half of them. But if waving it around made her feel better, great. Luckily, her needle-nosed vehicle was whirling in a brine pool only 200 yards away. A wealthy topsider's toy, a real beauty. I held the anchor chain taut so she could shimmy up to the gel-filled ring that was the entry port. I followed, pausing to hitch my manta to the jet's tail, where it hovered, resembling a real manta ray minus the tail. I wiggled inside and spilled onto the pilot bench alongside her. It was like settling into a small, perfect rocket. After unsealing my helmet, I drew in a breath to make sure the liquid in my lungs evaporated. Because we'd filled our lungs with liquid and not some volatile mix of gases, our chances of getting the bends were slim. Still, I was glad to see that Gemma had turned on the vehicle's depressurization system. Beside me, she coughed up liquigen. "Don't hack it out," I instructed, stowing our helmets behind the seat. "That's harder on your lungs." She swallowed, eyes watering. "You know this isn't really a mini-sub, right?" My fingers whispered over the control panel. "It's a jet fin, not made for deep diving." As I touched the icon that turned the toggle switches on the panel into holograms, I realized she was staring at me. "Sorry, you want to drive? It's your rental." "No." Her voice was shaky. "I'm sure you've been piloting subs since you were 5. 4, I said, with a smile she didn't return. "Want me to take you back to the train station?" She nodded, her eyes shining with a mix of alarm and fascination, the way my little sister gazed at mammals with fur. "I have to go anyway to report that rig." To avoid her stare, I searched for the switch that would draw up the anchor. Nothing good ever followed that kind of look. "How did you find my sub in the dark?" she asked. "Your jet fin. Mini-subs aren't tricked out for speed." "You didn't answer the question." I shrugged, though my insides whirled like a comb jelly. I'd spooked her. And here I thought I was acting normal, I just followed the current, I said. Which was true, sort of. Any pioneer could do it. I jimmied the throttle and the jet fin blasted forward, throwing us back against the seat. I knew Gemma was still watching me. I could feel it. I tried to focus on the thrill of the ride, but even that didn't unclench my gut. It's true, isn't it? Soft and insistent, her words poked at me. What they say about the pioneer kids down here. They say a lot of things, but it's all chum. I kept my eyes on the viewport and increased the jet speed. We're just like you. No, you're not. She may as well have jabbed me with her flashlight again. In fact, I would have preferred it. Bruises went away. I turned to defend myself, but Gemma's gaze was as bright and intense as the flare I'd fired at the Green Lantern sharks. And like those deep-sea creatures, I froze. Admit it, she said. You have a dark gift. That's the end of chapter 1. So now we're going to switch over to Squonk reading chapter 2. Hee. I love the imagery and the way that they describe everything. It's just so interesting.
It's a very setting-heavy book. It makes sure that you fully understand, like, exactly what's going on in the moment.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, every detail is just described to the T, and it doesn't stop moving, which is really nice. Like, it's not stagnant in any way. The story just keeps pushing, and you just keep learning as it goes, you know?
Right. It doesn't ever feel too overly weighed down with exposition, either.
Exactly. My mouth was getting dry. I love the voice of the author in this, too. Like, like, authors have tones when they write, and the voice in this one is just really easy to, like, digest, I guess.
Right. Feels very relatable.
Yes, exactly. And it's, I don't know, this is just, yeah, it's quirky, it's cute, it's cool. I like this.
Alrighty. My expression was calm. Dark gifts are a myth. I listened to my own voice. Distant. Almost bored. Good. I returned my gaze to the glowing blue control panel and added, So, the Kraken, by the way. You found my sub, my jet fin, in water blacker than tar, she pointed out. You swam right to it. If you think I can see in the dark, I can't. I just followed the river. A river in the ocean, she scoffed. That makes no sense. I forced the pedal to the floor to keep from shaking my head in disgust. There was so much she didn't know about the deep sea, yet here she was, paddling around 2 miles from the ocean's surface. And you call us crazy, I muttered. Who does? You. I yanked the joystick toward me, sending the jet fin zooming up the Continental slope. Topsiders. Topsiders? She didn't sound offended. You mean people who live... Grinning, she waved over her head. Above? Yeah. Her hand dropped. You changed the subject. Because there are plenty of real things to worry about in the ocean without fixating on some old fisherman's tale. Okay, fine. She made a big show of fastening her seatbelt. Maybe you don't have a dark gift, but they are real. As real as mermaids. We traveled the next 15 minutes in silence while outside the ocean was a blur of blue. With her lips pursed, Gemma stared out the viewport. There had always been tensions between topsiders and pioneers. After everything we'd been through, the floods, the subsea landslide that sliced through our telecommunications cables and cut us off from the world, and 52 years of living under emergency law, you would think that we would have gotten along. But that wasn't how it worked. The topsiders clung to the chunks of oversea land that were still left, and they didn't understand why we weren't clinging too. For them, it was natural to crowd hundreds of thousands of people into a single square mile, but to live underwater, that was unnatural. Though honestly, the people who live on the small ocean townships aren't given much more in the way of respect, never mind that it is the ocean dwellers who supply the nation's food and keep watch over the energy sources, the tides and hydrothermal vents. We were still freaks to them. Gemma must have been thinking along the same lines, although from her side of the equation. She turned to me abruptly and said, "There's a boy who lives down here. He talks to dolphins." I held in my sigh. We all talk to dolphins. They're like dogs. I mean, he understands them. Schools of fish surround us now that we were on the continental shelf, yet Gemma kept her blue gaze pinned to me. "His name is Akai. A doctor wrote about him in a medical journal." You read medical journals. No, but it was reposted all over the news web. The doctor thinks Akai's brain developed differently because of the water pressure down here. I rolled my eyes, but she went on. Adults aren't affected. Their brains are already formed. Only kids get dark gifts. Good theory. With a jerk of the joystick, I leveled off the jet fin. Must be why people still believe it, even though that article was proved to be a big hoax. Guess that wasn't reposted all over the news web. You do know about Akai. Her expression was triumphant. What I know is that such crackpot theories are ruining benthic territory. I couldn't stifle my anger. Folks are scared to settle down here because they think their kids will turn into mutants. I think it would be cool to have a dark gift. Your parents wouldn't. They'd worry about your messed up brain. My parents are dead. I twitched with surprise. She'd said it right out, like it didn't matter. "I'm sorry," I said. "I'm a ward of the Commonwealth. It's no big deal." I gave her a look, telling her that I wasn't buying it. "How about this? You believe me when I say I'm fine, and I'll believe you when you say you don't have a dark gift." An enormous glowing ball appeared in the murky water ahead of us, an island of light in the cobalt sea. "What is that?" "The trade station," I replied, surprised. "You rented the jet fin there?" "No, I was on the top of the water, on a big floating ring with lots of people." "That's just the surface deck. An elevator takes you down to the lower station. See the cable?" Trade station was tethered 100 feet below the ocean surface. A thick cable connected it to the floating platform above, while anchor chains, studded with tiny lights, dropped into the darkness below. "Want to know what I do like about the top side?" I tried for a light tone. She nodded. "Getting there." Let's check.
Dang, that was a short chapter. Do you want to read the next one? Or do you want me to read it? I just want to make sure.
I don't mind taking turns.
Okay, well, I just want to make sure. I did make a little poll too, if you guys want to. What do you think you would be, a topsider or a dark life? Which technically those are both like derogatory terms for the characters, which is so goofy. It's not goofy, but it's like making the poll and using that. Not sure what else to say. Go on.
Well, I mean, it's the names that we're given so far.
Right. Exactly.
We haven't been given their preferred terms.
Exactly. Okay. Let me take another sip of this bloom. Okay. The jet fin rocketed out of the ocean and into the otherworldly realm of air and sun. As it arched 20 feet over the ocean surface, Gemma screamed with delight and clapped when we splashed down in a whirlwind of spray. Glacial! Shielding my eyes, I flipped the motor into idle and let the jet fin rock with the swells. Sunlight flooded my irises. Too hot, too bright. Hey, are you okay? As she bent to see my face, her braid brushed my wrist, sending a shiver through me. I'm fine. I wasn't, but I would be able to fake it in a minute. Forcing my hand down, I squinted at the endless expanse of ocean surrounding us. Oops. As always, surfacing through my senses into shock. Overbright colors and sharp-edged sounds assaulted me. How was anyone comfortable up here? The light alone kicked every thought out of my mind and swapped my personality for a headache. I slid back the cockpit cover, wincing as heat rolled over me. The weird thing about natural air was that, unlike filtered air, it had taste, flavored by whatever was nearby. In this case, the sun and ocean, hot and briny. I inhaled and gauged our distance from the floating surface deck. From here, the 4-story elevator shaft topped with a white glass observatory looked like a mast and full-blown sail. But even as far off as we were, the din of voices carried across the water. I hated market days. To top it off, I hadn't come equipped to surface. Didn't have a hat or even sun goggles to shield me. Not just from the deadly UV rays, like most people, but the stares. I stood up in my seat. I'll meet you at the docking ring. Where are you? Gemma's words cut out as I dove under the water, back into the sea's cool embrace. Instantly, my mood improved. With 2 kicks, I was behind the jet fin, where I unclipped the manta board's tow line. Race you, I called to Gemma, who was leaning over the other side of the jet. She whirled around as I pulled myself onto the manta. With the twist to its hand grips, the board shot across the waves like a skipping stone. You didn't say go, she shouted. Behind me, the jet fin roared to life, then sliced past with Gemma waving from the open cockpit. I rose to my feet and towed the joystick to high, and the manta sprang forward, while wind and sea spray slapped my face. I'd say this much for the topside. Everything moved faster up here, without tons of water weighing it down. As I approached the surface deck, the noise went into attack mode. Hollering vendors, haggling shoppers, and screeching gulls. I slowed the manta until I risked sinking it and focused on the brightly colored stalls that circled the promenade. Even more calming was the sight of the boats clustered along the docking ring at water level. At least most of the people on the surface deck wore tunics with loose-fitting pants, which meant they were probably floaters, people who lived on houseboats. Even if they hadn't seen a shine firsthand, most would know what it was, and so would the fishermen, hopefully. I almost never came up here. I'd learned long ago that it wasn't a place for me, and I learned that the hard way. There was no turning back now, not with Gemma leading me forward. I rounded a barge and spotted the sea coach in the next slip, unfolding its wing sails like an enormous albino bat about to take flight. My unease evaporated when I saw my neighbor Gibby, Groot, on the deck, hosing down the solar membranes that stretched between the wing struts to catch sunlight and wind. Cruising between the moored boats, I called, "Need a tow?" Gibby raised his shaggy blonde head and, upon spotting me, cracked a gap-toothed smile. "Just the glow stick I wanted to see." "I don't glow." I sliced my board into a wave while cutting the motor, which sent a sheet of seawater crashing over him. Laughter and applause erupted nearby, and I saw several other young men, all newbie settlers like Gibby, lounging by the ship's deckhouse. As I returned their waves, Jibby jumped onto the docking ring. "Where are you headed?" I asked, grasping his outstretched hand. He held me onto the docking ring, mantiboard and all. "Paramus," he said. "The station is out of everything, thanks to the chum-sucking outlaws. We're going to see what we can scrounge. Want to come?" "Can't." I folded in the manta wings to make it easier to carry. "I've got to see the ranger." "Good luck. He's below, in the town meeting." "Why aren't you?" I asked with surprise. I'd been itching to hear what was to be an announcement of vital importance concerning all territory residents, according to the sign posted in the trade station. But my parents were under the illusion that chores took priority. "If I wanted to sit indoors and jaw," Jibby retorted, "I'd still be living in a stack city." A sly grin pulled at his lips. "Ranger Grimes will be in that meeting for hours. Your parents, too. Come on. We'll hitch your manta to the back and do some wakeboarding." Tempting, but I still can't. I'm helping someone. No way was I going to mention Gemma to Jibby, who was on the lookout for a bride. Last year he tried to order one, but demanded a refund when she'd arrived, older than his granny. "Someone?" he asked, interest piqued. "Ty!" Down the bustling docking ring, Gemma waved at me with both arms. So much for keeping her stowed away. She'd parked herself between an orange ladder that led up to the promenade and a door to the lounge, which was a fancy name for the hollow space furnished with lockers and benches inside the surface deck. Fishermen clustered around her, each bare-chested, and slathered in a different color of zinc paste, orange, green, blue, to protect their skin from the sun. What an image, bro. Oh my god. Sorry. Oh. Yikes. Whistling soft appreciation.
Like a pack of Smarties.
Seriously. Oh. Jeez, a pack of Smarties. That's so accurate. That's absolutely the color. Oh my god, yeah. That's so perfect. Okay. Whistling soft appreciation, Jimmy patted down his damp hair and strode toward her. So debonair. Having no better choice, I swung my manta board over my shoulder and followed him. We reached Gemma just as the fishermen dispersed. The last one handed her back a laminated photograph saying, "Don't recognize him." "It's a really old picture," she called after the man. "Imagine him grown up." "Howdy," Jibby crooned, closing in. She glanced over her shoulder as if he was talking to someone else, which irritated me. She knew that he was slobbering over her and not any of the sweating color-streaked fishermen pushing past. True, some were women, but who could tell the difference when they were coated up to their eyeballs in a mixture of zinc paste, grime, and stray fish scales? Oh god. Man, dating here is slim picking, that's for sure. Jesus. Oh my god. Oh, fuck. Reluctantly, I introduced Gemma to Jibby. "So," Jibby shot me a smirk, "you're someone." "I hope so," Gemma replied. "Usually I'm just one of a million someones." "Welcome to Benthic territory, Gemma." Jibby thrust out his hand. Almost called him Gibby. Fuck. Jibby thrust out his hand. "Where you're not the only someone. You're a rarity. You're not only someone, you're a rarity." Her brow puckered as if she didn't know what to say. Looking away, I inhaled the ocean's briny scent to ease the ache behind my eyes. She hadn't acted flustered with me. No. She'd jabbed me with a flashlight and wouldn't let up about dark gifts. I heard her ask, "Have you seen him around here?" and glanced back to see her thrust the photo into Jibby's outstretched hand. Suddenly, my head felt much better. "That's your brother?" I asked. She nodded. "So far, no one recognizes him, but he's only 14 in the picture. I don't have anything recent." "Sorry." Jibby handed her back the photo. "Haven't seen him." His name is Richard. She rubbed her thumb across the image, as if to brush her brother's long hair out of his eyes. Richard strayed. You look a lot like him, Gibby said. I frowned at him over her bent head. The resemblance between the siblings was slight at best. Both had blue eyes and reddish-brown hair. Oh, we're about to have an ad, so we'll want to take a break so that people don't miss out. I'm just going to finish reading until it, and then I'll stop. Oh my god. You look a lot like him. I frowned at him over her bent head. The resemblance between the siblings was slight at best. Both had blue eyes and reddish-brown hair, but Gemma's brother was a tall fishing rod of a boy, with features too big for his face. Still, she brightened at the comparison. Don't bother showing his photo to fishermen, I advised. Prospectors don't surface much. Sometimes they rent bunks in the lower station, but mostly they live on their rigs and guard their plots against claim jumpers. If anyone has seen your brother, it'll be a pioneer. She looked up with interest. How do I know who's a pioneer? Okay, we'll stop for I think it's a minute. So, now that's going to be a little Dabrowski break. Smoke break! Yeehaw. This is a fun book. I know I've already said that like 100 times, but I just like it.
Right. It's such a fun premise.
Yeah, the whole idea of it is just so interesting.
Because we've gotten into the book a little bit, there are certain parts that I'm really excited to get to.
Yeah, I know. Like, there's still so much that we haven't seen yet. That I haven't seen yet, for sure.
Right.
Yay, I think we're done with the ad. Oh, fuck, no, it literally just started doing the ad again.
What the fuck?
I think it does them in 30-second breaks, like 30-second ads. But I feel like that's new, because sometimes it would do it in like a full 1-minute break. I'm not sure why.
Right. I feel like I remember that too.
Twitch be doing its own thing.
I feel like I remember getting minute 30 ads.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say, is like longer ones. Way longer. But I'm going to keep trying to watch out for those so that I don't read through them, that we don't read through them. So, all right.
Right.
We're back. All right. She looked up with interest. How do I know who's a pioneer? Half the settlement is in the lower station right now, sweetheart. Chibi offered her his arm. I'll take you down. Aren't you sailing to Paramus? I asked. I'll launch later. But I have to go below anyway, I said, to tell the ranger about that rig we found. Jibby looked at me with new curiosity. What rig? His ego was a flying fish cresting waves, I noted enviously. Nothing sank him. A prospector's by the look of it. It was awful inside. Blood all over the walls, Gemma added with a shiver. Fish guts, Jibby assured her. Happens. Doubt it, I interrupted. The Sea Blight gang hauled off that rig like they had something to hide. We barely got out in time. Jibby's gaze flew to me. The Sea Blight gang only robs government ships. Till now. Nah, he said as if convincing himself. Prospectors got nothing worth taking. I shrugged. When a shark is hungry, it'll eat anything. Jibby paled, but I went on. You know, if you're headed to the coast, you should go now. Launch later and you'll be sailing home after dark, loaded to the gills with fresh supplies. He absorbed my words. Nice meeting you, Gemma, he blurted, then spun on his heel and sprinted down the docking rig. Quit your sun soaking, boys, we gotta make wake! God, Such a good way to say that. As the men on the sea coach scrambled to their feet, guilt eddied through me. Hopefully I hadn't ignited mass panic just so I could be alone with the girl. He hardly shimmers at all, Gemma said, watching Gibby jump onto the sea coach's deck. He only came down 2 years ago. To stake his claim? I glanced at her, sure that she was teasing me for wanting to do exactly that, but she returned my look with eyes as clear as blue glass. I nodded. In 3 years, Gibby will own 100 acres. A voice carried over the waves as the sea coach pulled out of its slip. My Gemma lies over the ocean. My Gemma's a gem o' the sea. Gibby sang as he worked the ship's wing sails. My Gemma lies over the ocean. She's such a rarity. Scowling, Gemma tucked her brother's photo back into the pouch on her belt. Off key? I asked, pleased that she wasn't charmed. 100 acres doesn't give him the right to be mean. She turned her frown on me as if I were in on the joke. The world is crammed with girls like me. I get it. I choked back a laugh. See any other girls around here? She regarded me suspiciously, but glanced around. There. She nodded at the docked boats behind me. What's your point? No doubt she'd spotted a floater who didn't count. A girl off a houseboat never stuck around longer than it took her parents to post mail. But when I turned, I was surprised to see a flashy yacht bobbing in the next slip. On deck, 2 women lounged under the bright parasols. Going by their goggles and fluttering dresses, they were from the mainland. That meant well over 3 hours in a boat, or more, depending on the wind, just to be tourists. Normally, we were used to being alone out here, safe that what was left of civilization was 60 nautical miles away. But every now and then, civilization dropped by to take pictures. Alarm straightened my spine. That instant, the woman in yellow spotted me and gasped, followed by the one in green, as if jaw-dropping were contagious. Of course, I was facing the sun full on, which meant my skin was catching every glint. Turning to Gemma, I whispered, "Let's tack out of here." She pointed to a nearby hitching post. I left our helmets in the rental sub. Jet fin, I corrected automatically and thrust my manta board into her arms. I'll get them and meet you on the promenade. I waved her toward the ladder, silently willing her to hurry. But it was already too late. Whoa. Okay, that's the end of that chapter. Now to chapter 4.
Yeah.
Yeehaw.
It took the 2 women no time to clatter down the docking plank, hurrying as if I were a breaching humpback about to sink beneath the waves. With our helmets in hand, I reluctantly climbed out of the cockpit and onto the jet fin's nose. Excuse me. Excuse me. I pointed at the section of docking ring where they stood. That's about as far as I can jump. Oh, they scuttled back to give me room, though not much. When I landed a few feet away, their hands flew to their sun goggles, and I heard the familiar click, click, click of tiny levers being depressed as the women lightened their lenses. And my parents wondered why I hated visiting the stack cities. You have beautiful skin, said the one in green. She sounded adult, which meant she should have known better than to gawk at a person. Thanks. I tried to scoot past, but the one in yellow blocked my path. Is it real? She slipped back her headscarf to reveal elaborately braided blonde hair. Not painted on? It's real enough. At least there were only 2 of them, and they were women. That I could handle. Men really triggered my adrenaline. No matter how polite or friendly, if a man stared at me too intensely or studied me like I was a curious specimen under a microscope, I'd start to choke as if my lungs had collapsed. I don't believe it. The woman in yellow strolled closer. I'll bet that glimmer rubs right off. She was teasing. I got that, but goggle-eyed and smeared in white zinc, she came off creepier than any critter out of the abyss. Can I try? She asked with a smirk. Try? She peeled off one of her long gloves. To rub it off. Her anemic hand reminded me of a sea spider as she reached for my cheek.
Ugh.
I forced a smile. So long as you don't mind the fish oil.
Oh, God.
Her fingers snapped back. Fish oil? All the pioneers bathe in it, I said, straight-faced, so we don't dry out from living in salt water. She gave me an appraising look. You're making that up. Oh, stop being coy, the other woman snapped, thrusting several bills at me. Now stand still and let her touch you.
Oh, my God.
Hi! A voice shouted. Above us on the
Jesus.
promenade, Gemma leaned over the guardrail. Stop showing off your skin, she scolded loudly. To my horror, every man and woman within 100 yards swiveled to look at us.
Oh, God.
And don't you dare take that old bag's money.
Oh, my God.
Muttering their indignation, the two women hurried back to their yacht. I scrambled up the ladder to the promenade, where I found Gemma grinning widely. That was fun, she said. The people lined along the guardrail were now out and out staring. I could live with it, but it didn't mean I liked it. Ducking my face, I headed for the tower at the center of the surface deck. What? Gemma called after me. No thank you? I wasn't quite ready to maneuver through the sweaty throng of people in the market, so I waited for Gemma to catch up and then skirted the edge. But even that wasn't getting us anywhere, because Gemma kept pausing to marvel over the mountains of fish piled onto tables and kneel by troughs overflowing with hairy lobsters and periwinkles.
What? Hairy lobsters?
Yeah.
Do lobsters have hair?
Like Yeti crabs and stuff.
What? Like, actually?
You've never seen Yeti crabs before?
Hold on. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, wait a minute.
Google that shit. Jarvis, pull up a Yeti crab.
Computer porn. Oh, we have to show chat. We have to show everyone.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me. Oh no, I'm not showing the right screen. Guys. Fuck. I can't see shit.
Yeah.
Oh my god, here you go. Oh.
I don't know specifics, but I wouldn't be surprised if the, fuzzies on them help them catch food.
Ew. These are really scary.
They're real deep sea creatures.
They're really, really scary. Wow. Oh my god. Okay, thank you. I needed that. Perfect.
I'm glad you enjoyed that.
Yeah, I feel revitalized. Thank you. Okay, we can get back to reading now. Thank you for sidetracking with me.
All good.
Hairy ass fucking lobsters and crabs.
Yeah.
Nasty.
Hairy lobsters and periwinkles.
That's a crazy.
Shop,
that needs to be a shop name. That's our branding. No one can take that.
Right.
No one can take that. TM. Okay.
After her fifth stop, I realized it wasn't the food she was eyeing, but the crowd. She was looking for her brother. You're wasting your time, I told her. Prospectors don't shop here. It's the priciest fish market in the world. Really? She looked about curiously. Why? These fish were caught in the open ocean, which means they weren't swimming through what's left of the cities destroyed by the rising. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a cluster of shoppers pointing at me. Can we go below now? I thought I'd asked it calmly, but Gemma's gaze snapped to me as if I'd collapsed in a heap. Then she noticed the gawkers circling us. Does this happen to you all the time? She asked. Only when I'm topside. How do we get below? I pointed to the tower that was really just an elevator shaft. The only way to get there was through all of the milling people, and I couldn't spot a break in the throng. The heat glare and dead fish stench were getting to me.
Ugh.
Then cool fingers entwined with mine as Gemma took the lead and plunged into the crowd, dragging me along. She barreled through the closely packed bodies, shouting, "Excuse me," now and then, but mostly she elbowed people aside. I held onto her hand like it was a lifeline, only to plow into her when she stopped at a hanging footbridge, one of many that crossed over the enormous hole in the middle of the surface deck. Like the spokes of a wheel, the slender bridges all led to the tower platform, suspended in the center. "It's safe," I told her, stepping onto the titanium mesh footbridge. 1 story down, submarines lined the inner docking ring. Gemma followed me while keeping a tight grip on the railing. I pointed out the white glass observatory above us, which creaked as it pivoted in the wind. "That's the ranger's station." Inching along, she frowned at the churning water in the launch well. "You don't like heights?" I asked, walking backward to face her. "I don't like falling," she said tightly, then scampered past me onto the tower platform. When she pressed the elevator button, the doors opened into a transparent compartment with a metal column running through its center. Gemma read off the call buttons: observatory, surface quarters, service, recreation, access. "Well," she scoffed, "those are as clear as smog." Observatory and surface are the only 2 levels of the upper station. I pushed the service button. As the elevator dropped out of the tower and descended through the launch well, Gemma leaned against the plexiglass to look up at the people on the suspended footbridges. Gaining speed, the elevator zipped past the inner docking ring and plunged beneath the waves. Gemma jumped back with a gasp, but I relaxed. Surrounded by ocean, I felt like myself again. In silence, we plummeted through the sun-streaked water. Then she noticed the slot next to the recreation call button. "What's this for?" "You have to insert an adult ID card or the elevator won't move." "So, recreation is a euphemism," she guessed. "Saloon and gambling hall didn't fit on the panel." The elevator slid down the cable into the darkening blue. A swordfish glided past, attracted by the lights. "That's one huge fish," Gemma said in awe. "And he's a baby," I replied, eyeing the 6-footer. "Swordfish usually come twice as long." With a flash of silver scales, the swordfish darted off. Gemma circled the elevator to watch it go. "I've seen more wildlife today than ever." She turned her attention to a golden cloud of amberjacks. "Unless you count rats and wild dogs." "Tell me again why people live lopsided?" I teased. Smiling ruefully, she kept her eyes on the fish. 100 feet down, the lower station swelled beneath us, as big as a transatlantic zeppelin. The elevator slipped into the opening on top. 2 levels down, the doors opened. "Welcome to Main Street," I said as we stepped onto the surface deck. There wasn't a person in sight, only darkened storefronts. She peered in window after window of the empty stores. "Why is everything closed?" "These were never open." I led her down a hall that fanned off the central corridor. "The government thought lots of businesses would set up shop down here, but it didn't happen." "Why not? There were hundreds of shoppers on surface deck." "It can get rough in the lower station. Make sure you head back to the mainland before nightfall when the miners and tide runners ship in." "I'm not leaving until I find my brother." I stopped. She'd said it like she meant it. "No, seriously. Today's Friday. These men live on the seafloor all week, and please, I can take care of myself. I'm tough. Tough. If I wasn't so astounded, I would have laughed. Anyway, no one is going to notice me. I look like everybody's kid's sister. Flicking her braid over her shoulder, she waltzed toward the transparent wall at the end of the corridor. Not mine. I caught up with her and decided to drop the issue for now. I'd explain how things were later, before the lower station got truly rowdy. We turned into the outer corridor. The exterior wall was all window, smooth on the inside, yet scaled outside. The large squares distorted the view only where they overlapped. Gemma paused, as if admiring the ocean, but then gave me a sidelong glance. Why didn't you want that woman to touch you? She was beautiful. I grimaced. Topsider Shore had a warped notion of beauty, like preferring skyscrapers to coral reefs. Who cares what she looked like? I asked as we started down the outer corridor. I don't want to be poked by some stranger. The staring and questions are bad enough. What sort of questions do people ask? We arrived outside the meeting room. Personal, I replied. Such as? Angry voices boomed through the closed door, which alarmed me. Town meetings didn't usually erupt into yelling matches. Come on, Gemma pressed. One example. Exasperated, I gave her one. Are you shimmery everywhere? Oh. Her eyes sparkled with mischief. Are you? Without answering, I cracked the door to the meeting room and peered inside.
Whoa.
Chairs were set up in a semicircle, but lots of people stood. Most wore dive skins. There were maybe 50 people inside, roughly an eighth of the total settlement population, though their backs were to me. I felt the tension running through the group and recognized several of my neighbors. Ben Tupper, the settlement's Commonwealth of States representative, stood on the dais, looking like an overgrown baby with his wispy hair and plump cheeks. All of the 45 states had 2 representatives in the assembly to vote on the state's behalf. As a lowly territory, we got 1 representative who wasn't allowed to vote, and we didn't even choose him.
What?
The assembly assigned us Ben Tupper, and there was nothing we could do about it. At least he was better than no representative at all, which was what the ocean townships had. Truth was, the states didn't have it that much better. The Commonwealth only held elections for new representatives every 20 years or so. Ever since the Rising became an official catastrophe, we've lived under emergency law, which means certain rights get suspended. Can't switch horses midstream, the representative said with every cancelled election. An appropriate metaphor, considering 20% of the continent was now underwater. Tupper smoothed down the sleeve of his official blue robe as he said, Well, what do you expect? You own great tracts of land. Naturally, a hefty property tax comes with it. Hefty ain't the word for it, someone shouted, though I couldn't see who. With a finger to my lips, I held the door open for Gemma, and we slipped into the back of the room. Instead of complaining, Representative Tupper suggested, you should be grateful the Commonwealth allows you to pay your taxes in crops. We'd rather pay in cash. I recognized my mother's firm voice and spotted her to the left of the dais. Pa always joked that Ma looked like an Amazon, but only because of her height. She was a scientist, not a fighter. As she rose to her feet, she seemed serious, not riled. We'd get 3 times as much for our crops at market than what the government says they're worth, and you know it. Next to her, Pa straddled a chair, deep in thought, his usual reaction to any problem. He ran a hand through his hair, leaving it spiked up like the prickles on a blowfish. Doc Coates, however, who was a dozen years younger than Pa, wore an expression that more closely matched my feelings, with his long legs stretched out before him. At first glance, Doc appeared relaxed, but his frown was so fierce, the corners of his mouth disappeared into the dark stubble of his beard. Even more telling, Doc massaged one scarred palm and then the other, which he only did when he was really vexed. Crops or cash, barked Raj Durrani as he jabbed his seaweed cigar at Representative Tupper. Either way, the wealth is bleeding us dry. Gemma shifted nervously beside me. I suppose Raj did look pretty savage, with his dive skin split open, showing off chest hair thicker than a seal's. And what do we get for it? He snarled. A few lousy supplies sold wholesale, a wet-hating ranger, and a doctor who can't even make a fist? No offense, Doc. With a wry smile, Doc tipped his hat to Raj and the assembly. It wasn't true, anyway. Doc could make a fist. He just couldn't perform surgery. And it wasn't like the station's infirmary was a hospital. We're not getting anything wholesale, Pa said, getting to his feet. Not lately. The Commonwealth hasn't sent us a supply of liquigen in months. We're down to using the trade station's emergency stock. He waved at the dispenser in the corner with its empty glass tank. I surely hope the lower station doesn't sink during your visit, Representative Tupper. As do I, Tupper replied smoothly. Clammy fingers touched my hand. That's a joke, right? Gemma whispered. The station can't really sink. Her face was whiter than a pearl and almost as shiny. At that moment, the room lurched, which meant that down on the access deck, some big sub had just dinged the rim of the moon pool while surfacing.
Oh.
Happened all the time. Gemma, however, didn't seem to notice. Are you going to throw up? I asked her. No, she said indignantly, then considered it. Maybe. With my foot, I nudged the waste can closer to her. So, if everyone is through voicing complaints, Tupper said, I'll get to the point of my visit. Gemma poked my arm. This place sink? Yes, I whispered, but it's nothing to fret over. On the dais, Tupper cleared his throat loudly. On behalf of the Commonwealth of States, I've come to ask the settlers of Benthic territory to help in the capture of the Sea Blight gang. Noises of disbelief erupted from the crowd, and the station shifted again. I heard Gemma sputter, but not from surprise. I hauled open the door. There's an air blower in the hall. Stand under it. You'll feel better. With a nod, she slipped out of the room. Someone shouted, That's the ranger's job. Ranger Grimes looked sweatier than usual as he pulled a pill bottle out of his pocket. Clearly, he needs assistance. Tupper's lips held the barest smirk.
It's getting political. It's been political.
The ranger took off his hat, probably because his auburn hair was plastered to his scalp. You try scouring the whole ocean for one stinking sub, he growled, and then pried the cap off the bottle with such force his pills scattered across the floor. His head must have pained him something awful because he instantly dropped to his knees to collect them.
Oh.
Ignoring him, Representative Tupper spread out his hands. You're always going on about making Benthic territory more independent, self-governing. View this as an opportunity. This is your chance to prove that you can maintain the peace within your own settlement. How do you want him? Dead or alive? Raj asked. Tupper smiled. Your choice.
Oh.
He said it so coldly he could have raised goosebumps on a corpse. I didn't like the outlaws, but to hand out a death sentence so matter-of-fact felt plain wrong. And I wasn't the only one who thought so. Pa stepped forward, finally, looking angry. And if we refuse to form a posse? He demanded. There are 3 incentives. Tupper held up a finger, tourniqueted with a thick gold ring. 1, the Commonwealth is halting all shipments to the settlement until the Sea Blight gang is caught. No one said anything. The announcement was not a surprise. Everyone knew the government had lost a lot of money on stolen cargo. I cracked the door and spotted Gemma standing under the blower in the hall ceiling. She gave me a feeble wave. 2, I turned as Tupper raised another stubby finger and said, Dr. Theo Kuntz has been reassigned to the mainland. Kicking back his chair, Doc got to his feet. Dr. Kuntz is not inclined to go. You're a government employee, Doc, Tupper reminded him, and not one in good standing. Doc bowed his head. Though his dark hair hid most of his face, I saw that he'd flushed a hot shade of red. I seethed on his behalf. Everyone assumed that he had some black mark on his record. Same with the ranger. Why else would the wealth have assigned them to an experimental settlement? But lots of pioneers came subsea looking for a fresh start, and it was understood that if a person worked hard and contributed to the community, nobody would bring up his past, let alone in front of a crowd. For all their overblown manners and convoluted etiquette, topsiders could be ruder than a card shark spitting chewing weed. I can always quit and set up a private practice down here, Doc said quietly, though his dark eyes glinted with anger. Not if your medical license is revoked, Tupper replied. You'll go where you're told, Doctor. He uncurled a third finger. Lastly, the Commonwealth will cease subsidizing new homesteads. No, I cried, not caring that I was alerting the assembly to my presence. Casual as you please, Representative Tupper had just snatched away my future. If I couldn't stake a claim subsea, what was I supposed to do? Move into a box on the topside? I'd fare worse than fish on the sand. Looking none too happy, Pa headed my way. That startup equipment isn't a gift, Ma said, riled at long last. It gets repaid 3 times over in crops, or the settler forfeits his land. These don't have to be permanent changes, Tupper said in a soothing tone that made me want to throw a chair at him. Since you all know the lay of the land down here, you'll flush out the Sea Blight gang in no time. And once you bring them in, dead or alive, the Commonwealth will reconsider the benefits of helping Benthic territory to flourish. If the settlement survives that long, I said bitterly, Pa ushered me into the hall like I was a little kid. Oh, I saw that.
Sorry.
All good. I got a little distracted by it.
I know, I'm sorry. I've been trying so hard not to be loud. He won't stop attacking Luna.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw him attack her in the background. Gemma stood a ways down the corridor, watching a huge leatherback turtle swim past, but Pa didn't notice her. Ty, this is important, he whispered, shutting the door behind us. So I heard. Reconsider the benefits. That wasn't even a guarantee. The wealth can't just change the rules and order us to hunt down outlaws. Pa gestured for me to keep my voice down. That's nothing you have to worry about. Yeah, it is. If the territory goes under before I turn 18. Listen, I have to get back in there. He sounded hoarse, and it looked as if new lines had been etched around his mouth. Why are you here? Did something happen? I hesitated. If I reported that the outlaws had likely murdered a prospector, how much more pressure would Representative Tupper put on the settlers to catch them? Nothing, I said. Forget it. I'd tell my parents and the other settlers later, after Tupper had launched for the mainland. Hand on the doorknob, Pa frowned. You came to the trade station for nothing? Thinking fast, I said, Gemma wants to see our homestead. Gemma. Now he noticed her, and his brows rose in surprise. Hello there. I couldn't meet her eyes. Would she scoff at the idea of wanting to see an underwater farm? Hi, she joined us without hesitation. Sorry we disrupted your meeting. Baffled by her presence, Paul looked between the two of us. Are your parents at the market? Her brother lives down here. He's a prospector. Second.
He's a prospector, supposedly. Supposedly, because, what the hell's going on? Shit's getting real.
Love you too.
To just leave these people to fend for themselves and then blame them for their resources being attacked? Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. 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 Okay, I'm done.
Her brother lives down here. He's a prospector, I said, opting for the simplest explanation. Can we take the cruiser? Just for a while. I'll come back for you and Ma, I offered, forcing myself to not fidget as Pa eyed me thoughtfully. We'll catch a ride with Pete, he said finally. You two go have fun. As an afterthought, he said, I'm glad you came subsea, Gemma. She beamed. Thanks. Ty never gets to socialize with someone like you. A topsider? A teenager, Pa corrected with a smile. And that's chapter 4.
Okay, work. My goodness. I mean, this book starts so strong. I love it. It's
Right.
so many layers of different conflicts, life details, futuristic concepts, as well as like scientific concepts mixed together. It's just so interesting. God. Should we try to read a little bit of chapter 5? Sorry, you go for it.
Oh no, I was just gonna say how it's like really interesting the way that they've come up with this like really, really like all-encompassing. It's not just a handful of people dealing with it. It's everybody is fucked.
Yeah.
At this big fucking decision.
Yes, absolutely. God. Some crooked ass shit for real. Okay, well,
Right.
let's try to squeeze in some chapter 5 and see how far we get.
Great.
You're the only kid in the whole territory? Gemma asked yet again. With the spin of the cruiser's wheel, I turned the big family-sized sub more sharply than necessary. The only teenager. There are other kids. She was making me feel like an oddity. 22 of us. She snorted with laughter. If there are 22 girls in the shower room with me, I considered that private. Look out! Ahead, in the midnight blue water, a shimmering wall shot out of the seabed like a geyser. I smiled at her alarm. That's our fence. It's charged to keep livestock in and sharks out. What's it made of? Then, as the cruiser drew closer, she answered her own question. Bubbles. The sub hit the dense stream of bubbles and burst through to the other side. Gemma gasped at the light, bright as a summer day on the top side. A flurry of fish surrounded the sub and then winnowed away to reveal acres of green fields. In the distance, larger fish moved in unison over the swaying kelp, illuminated by the huge banks of lights that encircled our property. Hot tar, she whispered, twisting to look in every direction at once. It's pretty great, I admitted. I was proud of what my parents had created out of the ooze, 400 feet below the ocean's surface, especially since people had said it couldn't be done. An unexpected tentacle of sadness wrapped around my heart. I'd picked out the land for my own homestead, measuring out the 100 acres of unclaimed terrain more times than I'd admit. The land was perfect, too. Beautiful and rich with wildlife. But I couldn't think about that now. I pointed at a shoal of pinkish-red fish. We have a side venture selling perch, but mainly we farm kelp and plankton. Plankton? Our meadow is up on the ocean surface. She still looked baffled, so I added, "You eat plankton every day. That green cream added to your food? What did you think it was made of?" "Not plankton." Just then, a tiny glowing shrimp shot out of the jet spray of bubbles and onto the sub's viewport. "Look," Gemma exclaimed. "It's a gem of the ocean." "Yep," I confirmed. "It was sucked up by the air jet and got the ride of its life." "Oh," she cried as a cyclone of bright blue fish whirled past, and she climbed into the back seat to follow them. "You don't eat those, do you?" "No. Ma keeps them just for pretty, like flowers in a garden," she says. "But they're tropical fish." Gemma spilled back into her seat. "How can they live this deep?" "Seawater is the same, deep or shallow. We just warm it up and add light and oxygen. The bubbles," I pointed at the fence, which appeared silvery from this side, "keep in the heat." When I glanced over and found her studying me, I tensed. Flushing, she mumbled, "Your skin is distracting." She pointed at the floating platform across the field. "What are those cages for?" I leaned back from the control panel, knowing that its blue light made the fluorescent particles in my skin shimmer. At least she said distracting, and not creepy. I steered the cruiser toward the platform lined with cages and basins. "Lobsters." I named the contents of each container we crossed. "Crabs?" Gemma's gasp cut me off. "What?" Frantically, she pointed at the far end of the farm. "Look at that jellyfish!" I couldn't help but laugh. "That's our house." It did look like an enormous jellyfish with its tentacles dangling into the kelp. If jellyfish grew big as blue whales. Gemma gaped. "Your house? But it's mushy." "I know. Your skyscrapers have hard walls and sit in the dirt, but it's different down here. A building needs some give. The smaller ones are outer buildings where we keep our goats and chickens." "You raise farm animals as well as fish?" "Not to sell. We keep them for the milk and eggs." Which reminded me I still had chores to do. As we approached the giant undulating bell that was my home, Gemma's expression softened. "It's beautiful." Pa modeled all the houses down here after deep-sea invertebrates, mostly different kinds of jellyfish. Those shapes work better in water. "Your father designed all the buildings in benthic territory?" "A lot of them." Did she think I was bragging? I felt compelled to explain. "My parents were part of the research team that built the first homestead. Ma's specialty is aquaculture, which is a fancy way to say deep-sea farming." We pulled up alongside my home. Transparent plastic wrapped the floating house, while honeycombed walls, filled with foam metal, gave the building shape. I steered the cruiser past a large window and pointed at the room inside. "See? We don't live much different from you." Gemma shot me a look. "Yes, we all have fish swimming outside our windows." "Besides that," I dropped the sub through a school of red snapper. "Besides that, your house is exactly like any Stack City apartment. Except it's bigger than one room," she continued, loading on the irony. "And not crammed into a concrete tower covered with doomsday graffiti. They can't all be that bad." "Some have 2 rooms," she quipped, then turned serious. "Most people live on the affordable floors below the moving walkways and train tubes, so everything's shadowy." She gazed at the expanse of green. "We're the ones who are the dark life." Under the house, a crop reaper was moored in a hangar. I pushed an icon on the control board and the cruiser rose toward the large glowing hole in the bottom of the house. "It's a moon pool," I replied to her questioning look. "The air in the house is pressurized to keep the sea from flooding in." We surfaced inside the large circular room. The ocean was dimly visible through the metal foam walls, giving the wet room a watery glow. "I still don't get it," Gemma said. "Why doesn't the pool overflow?" "Ever turn a bucket upside down and push it underwater?" I popped the cruiser's hatch and then looked back to see her nod. "Our house is the bucket," I explained as I balanced on the subsloped hole. "The air trapped inside keeps the water at a certain level." "Until the bucket tips," Gemma said, nervously as she stood up in the hatch and looked around. "Our house doesn't tip," I assured her. "The anchor chains keep it balanced, and they're tethered to pylons in the seafloor." Overhead, a catwalk circled the room. Had we arrived in one of my family's 2 mini-subs, I would have used the clamp to hoist the sub out of the water, but the cruiser was too big to store inside. "By the way," I said as I leapt to the moon pool's submerged ledge, "we don't like being called Dark Life." "Because you don't really live in the dark." She eyed the silver of water between the bumper and the ledge. "No, because it's a science term for bacteria that can live without light. We're not bacteria." I headed across the wet room, adding, "Just jump," without looking back. In the mechanicals room, I scanned the banks of monitors, checking the numbers: pressure, atmosphere, and temperature, getting the pulse of my home. I heard Gemma leap onto the ledge of the moon pool with a splash. Satisfied that the house was in working order, I rejoined her and showed her where to stow her helmet, gloves, and boots. Then I snapped our liquigen packs into slots in the wall, explaining, "They'll refill automatically." As I clicked on the view phone to check for messages, Gemma wandered across the wet room. "Why does one family need so much space?" I smiled at the judgment in her tone. "Unlike light and air, we didn't need to import space. Vehicles, for one thing. The equipment bay alone took up the whole right side of the wet room. The med shower is over there." I pointed toward a door on the left. "In the changing room. You better check your vitals." Gemma was more interested in the enormous window on the opposite side of the moon pool. Behind the glass, a jungle bloomed. "It's a greenhouse, isn't it?" she asked. There was a splash by the cruiser. She jerked around. "What was that?" "My sister, probably. I better warn her about you." As I knelt by the moon pool, Gemma hastened to my side. I turned my attention to the shadows beneath the house, but Zoe wasn't climbing up with the ladder. "What the heck?" As Gemma bent, putting her hands on her knees, something whipped by the dangling ladder. "What was that?" she gasped. "Darned if I know." I leaned in for a better look, only to have the moon pool erupt with spray, which sent me sprawling back with a splash. I glanced up to see a hideous snake-like creature rising out of the water. Its eyes were yellow slits, and a red fin crested its head like a bloody blade. I scuttled back while Gemma grabbed me by the arm, trying to drag me away. For a split second, the creature hovered above us. Then it shot forward, jaws wide, as it lunged for me. The sea serpent's jaws dropped toward my thigh and connected hard. I winced, expecting to feel searing pain as its teeth pierced my skin, but the pain never came. Instead of rising with its prize in its maw, the creature's head lolled in my lap, dead. "Come on, pull him up!" a muffled voice yelled. I looked up to see a small figure in a green dive skin scramble over the edge of the moon pool. Of course it was Zoe. "Don't be such a baby, Ty," she said, unhinging her helmet. "He can't hurt you." I shot her a dirty look, but she just sent for her helmet skittering across the floor. For light's sake! I pushed the red-finned head out of my lap and stood. Warn me next time you shove some dead critter up at me. Ignoring me, Zoe shook out her messy curls and peeled off her dive gloves. Those she threw across the room, nowhere near her gear locker. When she unfastened the basket at her waist, I snapped, "Don't dump it out here." But it was too late. She sent dead fish sliding every which way, including one flounder, which skidded into the toe of Gemma's boot. Zoe's eyes followed the boot upward, and she yelped in surprise. "You drag home sea monsters, and the sight of her," I hooked my thumb at Gemma, "makes you jump?" "Hi, I'm Gemma," she waved, though she continued to gaze curiously at the sea serpent lying half out of the moon pool. Zoe had given us both a fright, yet Gemma seemed to have bounced back already. I had to give it to her. She was resilient. "That's Zoe." Thankfully, Gemma didn't stare at her. My sister, however, blatantly gaped at Gemma with her lips forming a perfect O until I put a finger under her chin and closed her mouth. "She's 9, I said, as if that excused gawking. "So what is this thing anyway?" I asked Zoe as I nudged the silver-skinned snake thing with my foot. "And where'd you find it?" I was curious, but I also knew that when my sister started talking about some creature, everything else slipped from her mind. Sure enough, she looked adoringly at the limp sea serpent. "He's an oarfish, Ty. Really rare. Help me get the rest of him inside." It wasn't exactly what I was itching to do, but I grasped the oarfish by the head and dragged it out of the moon pool. Its snake-like body coiled once around the wet room, yet it kept coming. I pulled out nearly 50 feet of it before reaching its tail. The entire time, Zoe danced around the oarfish, bending now and then to pet it. "Your sister's so beautiful," Gemma whispered to me. "She looks like an angel?" I asked, tossing the oarfish's tail aside. She flushed. "You've heard it before?" "Once or twice," I admitted, though I didn't get why she was embarrassed. Even other settlers who were used to kids with shimmering skin got tricked into thinking that Zoe was angelic because of her wide eyes and blonde curls. Then they got to know her. "Hey, Shrimp," I called. Where are you going to put this hunk of meat?" "He's not for eating," she snapped. "I'm going to keep him." I groaned. "Zoe, it's dead. Probably rotten. It'll stink up the place." Gemma dropped to her knees and gave the oarfish a sniff. "It's not rotten," she called. Across the room, something twitched. The flounder, which had been lying still, was now flopping around. "And that isn't dead," I said. One by one, other fish quivered, and then, like mousetraps, set off in unison, they all thrashed to life. My eyes met Gemma's. The alarming thought that dropped into my mind had obviously dropped into hers. Maybe the oarfish wasn't dead either. Gemma scrambled to her feet just as the creature awoke, flailing and snapping its jaws. And that is the end of chapter 5. Yay! We did our first book club back.
Indeed.
Woohoo! Thank you for
Our timer
joining
worked out
us.
pretty good.
Yeah,
Of
that was
course.
so fun. I'm excited to do this again on Wednesday.
Definitely.
Well,
It'll be a good time.
I'm going to do my sign off. And yeah.
Alrighty, I'll pop out the call for that.
Okay, I'll
Bye.
see you later, Squonk. Bye. All right, well, thank you guys so much for coming and for kicking off our first stream back like so great. We are so lucky. I hope you guys enjoyed the reading, and we will be back on Wednesday, same time, to read this book some more and get into it. I'm really excited. I really enjoyed this book. I'm also going to be doing like an extra long day on Wednesday because your girl is busy. So I'm going to be cramming the Comfy Cozy Stardew stream into Wednesday and then doing book club after that. So we will be doing Comfy Cozy stream 12 to 4 on Wednesday, playing Stardew. And then we will be reading more book club. I will also post the voting for our monthly movie so that we can get that started and decide what movie we're going to watch. Yeah, long day, doubleheader on Wednesday. The 29th, the Friday, that day is going to be the day that we watch our movie, our monthly movie. So we have time. And yeah, we're just going to keep it going, keep the good times rolling along. So thank you guys for making the first stream so fun. I can't wait to play more Stardew again and get back to the grind that we were on and to continue to read this book and have more fun stream events as time goes on. Well, I guess it's time for me to sign off. Yeah, thank you so much, Squonk. Thank you all. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for supporting me, for supporting the stream. I feel so lucky. And I can't wait to be back. I'm so happy to be back. I can't wait to continue to just, again, keep those good times rolling. All right. Bye, guys. Have a good night. I'll see you on Wednesday. Peace.